So, what happens when absolute negation crashes into a deep, profound search for meaning? Well, today, we're going to explore that exact question through a kind of parable, one set in a very strange place called the uncanny forest. We're about to meet two fascinating travelers, a dragon and a jester, and their encounter is designed to reveal a hidden truth about the world and, maybe, about us too.
Our story kicks off with this chilling line from the verdant dragon, spoken with a voice that sounds like shifting stone. Now, this isn't just a monster's roar. It's a complete philosophical stance. It is the voice of pure, unadulterated negation, and it immediately sets a really profound and honestly a deeply unsettling tone for everything that's about to follow.
So where does this all happen? The encounter takes place in the uncanny forest. But you gotta understand, this isn't your typical everyday woodland. It's what you'd call a liminal space, a place designed to twist what you think you know, to make the familiar feel utterly strange, and to force a confrontation with truths we'd much rather just leave unspoken. Yeah, so the uncanny forest isn't really a location you can find on a map. As you see here, it's a psychological state. It's that feeling you get when all your comfortable illusions just start to crumble, forcing a kingdom or, just a person to finally see its own decay. It's that moment you have to confront what the Source calls the silence of heaven, that deep, profound void where you expect to find answers, but there's just nothing there.
And here are our two travelers. On the one hand, you have the verdant dragon. It's the spirit of negation, the not-self of nature itself, a grotesque mirror that reflects all the world's hidden ugliness. But then you have the jester. He isn't the source of light, but he's the angle at which it falls. He's a witness, an asker of really difficult questions. And here's the key. They aren't enemies. They're necessary counterparts, fellow travelers on what the story calls a downward road.
Their meeting really builds to the core of the whole parable, a debate. It's a philosophical showdown between two powerful and seemingly opposite worldviews about the very nature of truth itself. The dragon's ambition is, it's total. It doesn't just want to destroy things, it wants to feel everything. It literally roars that it wants to taste the entire human experience. As it says right here, it wants to load up on both woe and bliss, all in service of a complete and total descent into what is brutally, undeniably real. And this really reveals the dragon's true function. Its embrace of destruction isn't just random malice. No, it's a direct response to a world that has become dishonest, a world that's actively avoiding the void at its center. The dragon is just the mirror that forces this world to finally look at the ugliness it's been pretending isn't there. The jester, though, he offers a critical warning. He tells the dragon, and really, he's telling us, that you can't truly negate what you don't actually feel. Real insight can't just be pieced together from other people's scraps. It can't be some artificial performance that, sure, might please apes and children, but in the end, serves no one. The jester calls this authentic source the heart space. It's this idea that for a truth to really land, to actually sway someone, it can't just be some intellectual exercise. It has to rise up from what he calls the spirit's asking, that deep internal drive to find meaning even in a world that absolutely does not owe us any.
Okay, and this brings us to the real turning point, because this isn't a battle where one side wins. It's a synthesis. The dragon's negation and the jester's illumination, they combine to create something entirely new, a powerful and deeply unsettling, kind of light.
And that something has a name, the blight of revelation. Now notice the description here on the slide, a cold, white light. It doesn't burn you, it exposes you. This is an illumination so pure and so total that it makes every single face readable, revealing every hidden motivation and every appetite we've all forgotten how to even examine. It's a kind of radical, uncomfortable transparency.
So how does this whole process unfold? The parable calls it the geometry of the grotesque, which is an amazing phrase for how light can reach hidden surfaces. Let's walk through it. First, the dragon shatters all our comforting illusions. Second, the jester's unique angle of light shines right into those new cracks, lighting up the rot inside. Third, every hidden seam in our self-made world becomes totally visible. And finally, our own homegrown reality suddenly feels appropriately unhomely, strange, alien, and terribly, undeniably real.
So now the focus shifts. We move from these grand mythical forces and we zoom all the way into the intimate personal choice that this new light forces upon every single one of us. The jester introduces this powerful metaphor for that choice, the ember of discomfort. You can think of it as that small, persistent inner light that we're all born with. It's our conscience, it's our innate sense of truth, and it's that deep existential unease we feel whenever we lie to ourselves.
So this ember presents us with a choice, two very distinct paths. The ignoble soul feels its heat, but turns away, accumulating a whole series of small, reasonable compromises, and these little turnings build on each other, creating a weight that eventually becomes its own theology of safety, basically a fortress of self-deception. But the noble soul? That soul attends to the ember, letting its discomfort guide them, until they finally have the courage to just pull back the curtain and face the cold, unscripted world as it really is.
And so the parable poses its central question directly to us. To get to that real, authentic communication, to truly speak from the heart space, what's the cost? What has to be spent in the silence of that little 6x4 room of true self-examination?
As we reach the conclusion, the ultimate purpose of this shared, strange journey between the jester and the dragon becomes crystal clear. It's all about the final destination of this so-called downward road.
And we see that Jester's own evolution here. He starts out as this truth-telling monster, right? He forces people to see what they'd rather ignore. But his final role is way more profound. He becomes a witness, someone who simply holds the space for others to make their choice. He gets that the quiet presence that remains long after the performance is over, that's the only true vigil.
And this brings us to the core message of the whole parable, the inverted journey. Real truth isn't found by climbing up to some false, shiny summit. It's found by descending, by courageously traveling downward through all the world's failures, all the hypocrisies and ceremonies, to find what is fundamentally real, to find the truth of the earth.
And so the road continues, downward. The journey doesn't end with a neat little resolution, but with a direction. It points us toward that destination, where the true thing lives, not up on a pedestal, but deep beneath all ceremony. The jester's bells ring for things finally given their full names, as he and the dragon just continue on, forever traveling toward that truth. And the final question for us then is, what might we find down there, if we were brave enough to actually look?